When it comes to horror games or just immersive games with strong gameplay and puzzle mechanics focused on tension, Caput Mortum nails that balance that so many games seem to fail to grasp. It's a game that goes an extra step further by integrating lesser used mechanics, like finicky controller features similar to tank controls. This is something that heightens the tension to keep you on edge as if it were emulating a classic PlayStation 1 title. It's something that I really enjoyed. I know you've probably played a bunch of horror games recently, but I want to ask you one simple question. When was the last time you picked up a game like Amnesia: The Dark Descent and actually felt like you were enjoying yourself? And no, Amnesia the Bunker does not count as it leans on dated tropes and past successes of popular YouTubers like PewDiePie, but I want to know when's the last time you played a real horror experience that emulated the same sensations that Amnesia did. A game where you sit down with a walking simulator that blends ingenious puzzles, slow building tension, and of course thought-provoking material instead of throwing in a handful of cheap jump scares every time you turn a corner or open a door. Most of the good horror games that I found recently come from visual novels, while most others lean on recycled tropes and low-effort tactics. Sure, this could work for people who enjoy being startled every 3 minutes, but some of us want something different. That steady weight of tension, that creeping fear that something is always creeping up behind you, watching, without the payoff of another loud abrupt noise jumping out at you at any moment. Caput Mortum is a short horror story brought to life through the controls that deliberately echo classic tank control movement from games like Silent Hill, but within the atmosphere and stylings of Amnesia. Every step and every turn feels intentionally difficult, slowing you down and forcing you to think instead of sprinting through with keyboard and mouse precision. While this design choice may frustrate some players, it amplifies the sense of danger because your response time is handicapped, and every single encounter carries a bit more weight because trying to regain your bearings after being startled under this control scheme is an added part of the challenge. The only thing that might trip up some players are the actual puzzles themselves, because a few can feel a bit obscure and may push you into overthinking things. But please keep in mind that every single puzzle is confined to its own room or area. Nothing is overly complex. You just have to take your time, read the notes, and examine objects closely as the solutions slowly reveal themselves. After several playthroughs, I was left with only 2 main points of feedback. The game lacks enough dialogue to piece together a cohesive story. For example, the homunculus of this game lock away the Ouroboros creature, but the reason isn't clear. Maybe it was fear. Given that there are many psychological meanings behind Ouroboros, players may struggle to pin down the intent. The themes of rebirth or the cyclical nature of replaying events could use clearer context rather than feeling like it's a riddle or a poem. Of course, that just might be me overanalyzing it, since these themes aren't exactly my strongest area of expertise. Mentioning once again, the game's tension is amplified by its deliberately awkward controls, specifically when playing on a gamepad. Instead of using the right analog stick to look around, you rely on R1, R2, L1, and L2, while the right analog stick is tied to a unique mechanic involving your character's hand. Early on in the game, I feel like this could be a hindrance, because during a scene with an apparition at the end of a walkway, I was so focused on learning the controls as I was looking down and around that I barely registered the event that happened before me. I was actively being distracted, and it kept me from fully engaging with the things around me. If I had the choice, I would have liked for a few more rooms or opportunities to experiment with the controls more before introducing an event like this. This way, players like myself could absorb the moment more fully without being distracted while still trying to adjust to the controls. Of course, if you were to play on keyboard, this is irrelevant and it won't be an issue. I feel like this apparition's distance and the lack of a sound cue somewhat lessens the moment in its reveal early on. The only significant bug that I was able to run into was the bomb mixing station in the tunnel zone, which was immediately fixed upon reporting it to the developer, which showcased a lot of gumption. Like the rest of the game, the puzzle itself I would say is straightforward but designed to make you overthink. You are given notes and clues with the solution right in front of you, but in this case I ended up jamming random jars into the machine until it broke. At the time the fix was simple, restarting the entire section, as saves trigger on entering the new area rather than through notebooks or save stations. It wasn't that big of an issue because each stage takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. The only other issue I noticed is that the enemy AI is not the greatest. While the game includes combat, the AI barely responds to your presence. Even if you are attacking with a knife, an axe, or a torch, most creatures simply will stand there, looking away as if nothing is happening. This makes a lot of the combat feel trivial. It could be enhanced by increasing the AI's range of vision to a more 360 reach, because unless they see you directly head-on, you can often take them out in seconds without them responding to you. Playing on controller is a bit more tricky than playing on keyboard and mouse. The difference being, if you're playing on keyboard and mouse, you can effortlessly strafe and avoid all of their attacks. So again, I would highly recommend you play on gamepad if you want to get the full experience. There's a lot to like about Caput Mortum. The unique movement and the hand positioning adds a layer of depth to puzzle solving, with standout moments like the classroom hide-and-seek minigame against a homunculus. These puzzles shine because they hit a rare balance where they are challenging enough to make you stop, observe, and think, without being so obscure that you feel lost, or so simple that they insult your intelligence when you finally figure it all out. The game's design and atmosphere are excellent, as it avoids cheap horror tropes like loud jump scares and instead builds off of tension through the pacing and the sound design, while layering on a few elements here and there that work together in slowing your progress down, but still feeling engaging enough not to hold you back entirely, as you slowly move through the hallways while hearing the faint footsteps keeping you on edge, forcing you to double-check your surroundings. The backtracking in this game is handled well. It never feels excessive, and replaying for extra rewards feels worthwhile, even for somebody like myself who rarely revisits games after finishing them. Calling the design immaculate is not an exaggeration. Every single corridor of this ancient alchemist tower carries a sense of unease, with details that make you think something might be lurking just out of sight when you hear that dreadful pitter-patter of feet rearing up behind you. While it doesn't deliver the sharp, unnerving edge of true horror games, it nails the tension, the pacing, and the atmosphere. For this developer's first entry into the horror genre, it offers a surprisingly strong effort. What really does set Caput Mortum apart is its deliberate use of the character's right hand. Instead of the usual crosshair-based interactions seen in most horror games, this is a system that feels tactile and immersive, though it can be challenging under pressure while you're being chased. Caput Mortum is predominantly a walking simulator, with fragments of its story scattered throughout notes hidden around the tower, which are quite easy to miss if you're not paying attention. The core objective here is to navigate each section, solve its puzzles, and piece together the mystery of the homunculus creatures and the fear that they embody deeper within. While combat appears here and there, the game leans heavily on its linear exploration, letting the atmosphere and tension do all of the heavy lifting. For me, the real draw was the puzzles. They make you pause, think, and savor the satisfaction of breaking them down and piecing them back together, which is why I found myself so drawn into this world. It's not the type of gameplay that has you jumping out of your seat and screaming. It's a game that manages to hold your full attention from start to finish, with good tension and good puzzles. If you feel like you're somebody who's drawn to the tense atmospheres, dislike cheap jump scares, and crave the kind of horror that slowly closes in around you, Caput Mortum delivers just that. It's the kind of game that leaves you wanting more of this style, more atmosphere, more subtle horror, and most importantly, more of its clever, thought-provoking puzzles that are genuinely satisfying to solve. Wild Arts Games is still a relatively new developer, best known for its previous game, Born of Bread, a party-based RPG. As strong as that project was, I would love to see them continue expanding on a portfolio of horror titles, or really just puzzle games, because it clearly has a talent for puzzle design and immersive environments, and it would be a shame not to see that skill developed upon further.